Lesson 8, Nurturing Love. Welcome to the enriching exploration of Lesson 8, where we embark on a journey of embracing relationships and connection. In Part 1, Nurturing Love, we delve into the transformative power of love, a force that begins within and radiates outward, fostering profound connections. The heart chakra, or anahata, is considered the center of love, compassion, and balance in the body's energy system, according to some spiritual and holistic traditions. When the heart chakra is closed or blocked, it can disrupt the flow of energy throughout the entire energy system, impacting our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Ways a closed heart chakra can impede in our life. For one, it can disrupt our energetic flow, as the heart chakra serves as a bridge between the lower and upper chakras, connecting the physical and spiritual aspect of our being. When closed, the flow of energy is impeded, leading to imbalances in other chakras and overall energy circulation. Another way it impedes in our life is emotional imbalances. The heart chakra is associated with emotions such as love, compassion, and forgiveness. A closed chakra may result in emotional imbalances such as difficulty expressing love, holding on to resentment, or experiencing challenges in forming meaningful connection. Impact on relationships would be another aspect, as the heart chakra is closely linked to relationships and the ability to give and receive love. A closed chakra can affect interpersonal relationships, leading to difficulties of expressing empathy and experiencing genuine emotional intimacy. Another way would be limitations in self-love. The heart chakra is associated with self-love and acceptance. When closed, it may contribute to self-criticism, low self-esteem, and challenges in acknowledging and embracing one's worthiness, as well as resisting change. An open chakra encourages flexibility, adaptability, and acceptance of change. But when closed, it may manifest as resistance to change, fear of vulnerability, and a reluctance to step into new opportunities. And lastly, energetic resonance and manifestations. According to some spiritual perspectives, our energetic state influences our ability to manifest desires. A closed chakra, on the other hand, may limit our electromagnetic ability to resonate with positive energy, potentially hindering the alignment with our true goals and aspirations. So with that being highlighted and ways that we can become aware that a closed or blocked or a chakra that's not fully functioning in its full potential, maybe a more dimmed chakra. And as you point out, these highlights that I just mentioned, it's very easy to note and to become aware of moments when we can become aware of when we ourselves were blocked in our heart chakra, when it was hard for us to accept ourselves or forgive another, where we had resistance to change because we feared it, right? Because where there is love, where there is an open chakra, where there is the abundance of that natural energetic force within us, fear will literally cease to exist because we are in more of the natural state of love, because of our heart chakra being open and functioning properly. Now, there are many things that can close our chakras, from what we consume to what is it that we decide to think and believe, to our conditioning, to our religion, to our experiences, to our traumas, and all these things, right? Because sometimes creating enough friction within something that's sensitive or something that's innocent can create layers and layers of scarring around it, where we tend to shield ourselves so that we can feel more safe and protected. So we tell ourselves a story or a narrative saying, well, if I shield and not open my heart, I won't get hurt. Not realizing that we are indeed hurting ourselves in that same intention. Because to not feel is to not also be alive, fully alive at least. Because you're missing out on half of what life is, which is the ability to experience and fully embody those moments that allow us to feel one and connected with nature or with another individual, because we see ourselves in them. We see ourselves in the oneness of all that is. But in order for us to see that in our experience and fully embody that experience, our heart needs to be open. Because without having an open heart to perceive the nature of that potential, it becomes very, very difficult to, one, see that within ourselves, let alone anything outside of us. This is when you start seeing the world a lot more dimmer, a lot more darker, a lot more black and white. You don't see the love in things because you don't have it within you. And you don't have it within you not because it doesn't exist within you, but because you have cloaked it, because you have covered it, because you have not given yourself the ability to fully be in the expression of it. Which brings me into the quote of the lesson. You can only love others as deeply as you learn to love yourself. And this brings me back into my own experience. It's like when we learn to love ourselves truly, to do the work to heal those aspects of ourselves that didn't allow us to fully accept and see our own worthiness. And you start to gain the natural state of love within you. You start becoming aware of how much moments you missed out on to fully embrace and be in the energy of love because you feared getting hurt, because you were angry and you couldn't forgive, or you were resentful because your expectations were not fulfilled, right? Basically, when we live in the illusion of the ego construct in our reality, opening the heart becomes a lot more difficult as well, because we believe that we have to live a certain way to get what we want and reach our goals and whatever other story we decide to tell ourselves, because we don't know that we can also do that and be in the energy and the abundance of love. That in fact, if we are truly in the energy of love, by being in the abundance of that force within us, by having an open heart, we are generating our own natural state, our electromagnetic gravitation to all it is that we desire and want and envision for ourselves. And we truly get to embrace it and enjoy and experience it, because the distortion of fears and insecurities and feeling lack and not feeling worthy and all of these things that we tell ourselves when we're not in the energy of love will cease to exist. So the entirety of the experience changes by simply learning how to nurture the energy of love and learning how to cultivate the right mindset, the right behaviors, and the right intention to reopen our heart to that possibility. Because you will be surprised that once your heart is fully and truly open, the things you thought you wanted will no longer be something you probably would actually really want, because you come into the realization that the reason why you wanted it was because you were coming from a void. You were coming from a position or a perspective of lack. You were coming from a position of insecurity or seeking status so that you can receive the external validation that you believe you need to feel fulfilled with yourself, right? But what happens is when you open your heart, you no longer need those things because you are now giving yourself the validation that you need to fulfill yourself, to know that you are worthy, to know that you are more than enough, to know that you accept yourself fully as you own your present moment, as you own and accept your past, and you look forward with inspiration to your future, with that open heart and that open mind to perceive that possibility. So it becomes a beautiful process for those that seek to enter into it, while still remaining balanced in our physical and spiritual aspects of being, where we are not only out of balance and connected to the material and the physical aspects of this world, of the reality, but also having that pure divine connection to our true essence, to our higher self, to God, the God within ourselves, right? Where we have that balance, where we're not doing and are in the extreme of one aspect, but balancing the scale of our mind and our heart in the divine union of that divine essence that it is when coming together. Bringing us into nurturing love here. Love begins with oneself and ripples outwards, transforming not only our relationships, but the very fabric of our existence. As we nurture love within, we create a world where compassion, connection, and understanding flourishes. Now, this is very impactful because we could only measure what we have experienced. We could only measure and be aware of what we know based on experience, based on our teachings, based on our lessons in life, and so on. And we don't really see the value of something that most of us have yet to even fully experience, right? It's just a fantasy. It's just a fairy tale for some. And it is not to say that to feel and be in the energy of love, you need a companion, you need loved ones. Yes, that is something that allows you to amplify and experience the energy of love through the interaction and the experiences and the intimacy with others, as the others are only a reflection of aspects of yourself, which is why they are in your proximity, which is why they are a part of your reality, which is why they are a part of your interactions and connections, because they're showing you aspects of yourself so that you can experience, become aware of, but also learn to accept and fully love. And when you stop discriminating and suppressing and denying these aspects in you, what happens is it becomes more balanced. The extreme of the diversity, the extreme of the polarities no longer have to really exist at the complete opposites of the spectrum so that you can become aware of it. Because by you stepping into the balance of the energy of love, as the heart chakra is the center, the bridge of your spiritual and physical, you are not only bringing yourself into that balance, awareness of self, but also bringing your reality and the existence of all that you experience through the orchestration of your existence into the ripple effect of that same neutrality, where extremes no longer have to be, so that you can become aware of what is one thing as you experience the contrast of another. You're stepping more into the middle. You're stepping more into the foundation of the core of what brings it together in the unison, into the communion of itself, to see closely in a more intimate manner, in a more loving and accepting manner of its essence. It's almost like seeing your complete opposite from a distance and perceiving it as a version or an essence or a somebody that is the complete opposite of you, right? Because you have yet to see and accept that aspect within yourself. Until you start realizing that there's aspects within that person that kind of resembles me or reflects parts of me that I rejected or that I denied or that I disown or that I hide or that I don't like, right? But when you add love to that equation, you start seeing that contrast with the intention to not judge it or criticize it or shame it or point out why it's wrong. But when you add love to that equation, what you do is you try to look at what's the beauty within it. You start to look at what in that aspect do I need within myself to feel more balanced. Because more than likely, you may dislike an opposite, for an example. But there's something in you that still draws you to it because there's an aspect of you that you still need to reflect on. There's an aspect of you that you need to accept. There's an aspect of you that you need to balance out more so that you can step more into the neutrality. And it is not until that is done will we can truly and fully move forward. And I'm going to put this as a metaphor that I always use because it gives such a clear state of what this really is. So when, let's say you're on a boat and you're trying to go to the land that's 10 miles in front of you. And to get there, you have a small boat and you have one paddle. And it is your action of paddling yourself through the water while sitting in the boat that's going to get you to that destination of the next level of yourself, of the next potential of yourself, metaphorically speaking, right? But in this case, we're visualizing yourself on a boat, paddling yourself to the island that you want to go to. Because in this island, you're going to experience your goals, because you're going to experience your dreams. You're going to meet the person of your dreams. You're going to, whatever it is that you want to go, right? But what happens is, to reach that, you need to get there. But in order to get there, you need to get on the boat and paddle yourself there. Now, what happens if you decide that because you're, let's say, right-handed, you're only going to paddle with your right hand, as your left hand just holds the top. But because you decide that you're right-handed, you're only going to paddle with your right arm and push yourself forward. Now, if you've ever been on a boat, you understand that in order for you to reach any form of destination on a boat, you need to evenly paddle yourself. Meaning you need to go from one arm, then move to the next arm, and continue that process until you reach your destination. That is being balanced. That is learning how to use both aspects of yourself. In this case, if you open your heart, you're able to use your physical aspect, but as well as your spiritual aspect to reach your full potential. In the case of the boat, you're willing to use your right arm and your left arm to reach your destination. Because in order to reach the destination of any form, you need to balance the scales of all that you are. But if you deny the use of your left arm because you heard that being lefty is bad luck, or whatever belief you want to add to it, and you only go and use your right arm, what are you doing? You're just stuck in one spot going in circles and circle, and you're not understanding why you're not reaching your destination. Because to you, you're paddling the boat. To you, you believe that you're doing what you're supposed to do, and based on your experience and your beliefs, the right way is only to use my right hand because that's the right way. Therefore, you neglect the use of your left arm. So many of us, unfortunately, even throughout history, as the cycles continue over and over again, you would think that we would be logically inclined enough to pick up on the patterns and the history of all of these empires that have risen and then self-destruct themselves, because they get stuck in this way of being. They say that's the only way to be, and they're only using one side of the spectrum of themselves, of their society, of anything, because they don't know how to balance the scale, because they are denying, suppressing, rejecting, discriminating, judging, criticizing half of themselves. Just like scientists don't believe in spirituality, or spiritualists don't believe in science, when in reality it's one of the same thing, just on two different sides of the spectrum. But if only we decide that only one side is right and the other is wrong, we're going to continue going this little loop cycle that we continue going over and over for centuries and centuries in the history of humankind, because together we can't figure out the most basic common sense of them all, which is bringing our own internal duality into the balanced state of itself, whether that's right arm, left arm, whether that's feminine or masculine, whether that's red or blue, whether that's black or white, whether that's night or day. You see, true power lies in the unison of that, the complete union of our duality. But unfortunately, that can never happen unless we have an open heart. The irony is that it all bounds down to love. Because if you don't have enough love in you to accept all that you are, to see and not deny all that you are in those moments that you tell yourself that is not right or wrong and all these meanings you want to give it, you will never be able to be balanced. So having balance in any aspect of our life is so important. It's so crucial for us to live in a balanced state of mind, so that we can truly step into our full potential with the capability of loving ourselves, of accepting ourselves, of seeing the worthiness and the value that we bring without needing any external validation or guidance or mandates or dogma to tell us who we are. Bringing me into the art of self-love. Daily self-love rituals. Integrate daily self-love rituals into your routine, whether it's affirmations, self-care practices, or moments of reflection. These rituals reinforce a strong and compassionate self-relationship. Another way is to embracing imperfections. Learn to embrace imperfections both within yourself and others. Understand that authenticity and vulnerability deepens connections, creating a space for genuine love to flourish. And, this is difficult to start doing if you've never done it in your life, because it was very difficult for me when I started this process. So I'm not saying it's something you can just jump into. But man, does it change so much in your process of stepping into that love, so that you can fully nurture and cultivate the right mindset, environment, behavior, and so on that you need to open yourself to that possibility. Because we do have to learn to embrace all that we are, imperfection, flaws, and all. Own it, all of it, your past, your present, your future. Be okay with who you are, so that you know fully who you are, so that when anything or anyone outside of you tells you about yourself, it would only be a laughing matter. Because at this point, after you learn to truly love yourself and accept yourself and learn to do the same for others, nothing outside of you can tell you otherwise, of all that you know of yourself, of all that you learn to accept of yourself after you have owned it, after you have loved it, after you learn to embrace it. So in this lesson, just like the other ones, it's going to be separated into the 3-part lesson, with the first one being nurturing love, which is the one we're working on here, where we are going to explore the transformative power of love in your relationships, beginning with yourself and extending to others. The second part would be deepening connections, as we explore the profound realm of emotional intimacy, a key component in enhancing relationships and connections. And for part 3 would be harmonizing bonds, where relationships and connections become a harmonious collaboration. So going back into ways that we can nurture love and the purpose behind lesson 8 is how self-love contributes to self-mastery. Because here the intention is to become so self-mastered that we can step into the vastness of our full spectrum of our being throughout all the states of emotions and behavior, and truly understand the why behind it and learn to be okay with that, where we learn to navigate ourselves freely without being anchored and attached to it by the bondage of our lack of emotional regulation or emotional control, or lack of ability to forgive and let go, right? Through the process of self-mastery, what we're doing is we're learning to be one with all that we are, while learning how to navigate through all of these expressions of ourselves without judgment, without discrimination, without criticizing our flaws, and so on. We're just simply learning to be as we become our full potential. So the way that self-love contributes to self-mastery, for the first one we have, is enhances self-awareness. When you practice self-love, you become more attuned to your thoughts, emotions, and behavior. Example, taking time to self-reflect, journaling, or meditation helps you better understand your inner world. Another way it contributes to self-mastery is healthy boundaries. Loving yourself fosters the ability to set and maintain healthy boundaries in relationships. Example, saying no when needed, prioritizing self-care, and establishing limits that honor your well-being. And the last we have is empowerment and confidence. Self-love fuels a positive self-image and confidence, empowering you to pursue your goals. Example, acknowledging your achievements, celebrating successes, and recognizing your unique strengths. Now, what are ways of nurturing love in relationships? For one, we have communication with empathy. Foster empathetic communication in your relationships. Practice active listening, seek to understand, and express yourself with kindness, building a foundation of trust and emotional intimacy. You see, because what happens is when we step and nurture the energy of love within ourselves, we're not looking to defend ourselves, we're not looking to prove ourselves, we're not looking to pretty much live only on the desires and the perspective of the ego mind. We are learning to sit back and realize where we can find resolution, where we can better understand what our communication or our interactions are, so that in that we find the bond that is genuine and not one that is strategically created for opportunity or use of some kind, right? We are stepping into a genuine sense of being, because we no longer find the extreme importance of our egoistic desires of this world, because now we are consciously aware of our spiritual aspect, which allows us to be in the energy of love, which allows us to be in our balanced state of mind. Where yes, we like nice things, but we don't prioritize nice things over relationships, for example, because we understand that the true value of life comes through the experience of life, where we are interacting and having connections with others that allow us to fully embody these emotional states that can only really come from genuine connections. But when we look at individuals that are only ego-based, for example, they're never satisfied. They can have everything they want, but they're never satisfied, because what they're seeking is not in the monetary gain. What they're seeking is not in the instant gratification. What they're seeking is the lack of connection with themselves that they can't seem to find externally, because they are not open to that aspect of themselves. Why? Because they have not learned to nurture and cultivate the energy of love within themselves, which is why they themselves make themselves slaves to their own desires, running on the one arm on that boat, going in circles, never reaching their potential, never reaching their destination, because they are only paddling with one arm. You understand? So of course, if you're only paddling with one arm, like the example I provided before, and you're going in circles, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome, living in your own insanity, of course, and not understanding why. Oh, because your ego is telling you that love is weak. Because your ego is telling you that love is blind. Because your ego is telling you all these stories that contradict the balancing act of yourself, because the ego is ruling your mind. And the ruling of the mind is happening by the ego, because you have not allowed the energy of love to truly be cultivated within you. You see? And also the same thing is for the opposite. If you only think with the energy of love, and you want to help people, and you want to do this for people, and you don't think about yourself, or you think you need to be humble because you care so much, you're depleting yourself. You're not truly loving yourself, and you're in the delusion of living in the energy of love. Because if you were really in the energy of love, the first thing you would try to love fully and truly is yourself. Understanding that in order for you to be happy, you need to limit how much of yourself you give, so that you don't deplete yourself. If you truly love yourself, you would have the right boundaries, because you understand that because you're too nice or kind, people might take advantage of you. So you need to be in the energy that if you have to step back and reflect and bring your ego into the table so they can shut the door on that situation, you're able to do that, right? Because now I need to look out for me. Because if I'm doing too much, and let's say another person, all they do is take, then here you're not setting the boundaries as necessary, right? So it's also a level of awareness of where do you truly stand. And you need to learn to have that empathy and compassionate understanding with yourself to communicate these aspects with not only others, but yourself. How do I feel right now? How do I feel when I'm around this person? How do I feel when I'm in this job? What do I need right now to feel relief or satisfied or loved or understood? And give that to yourself first. So that by giving yourself that and prioritizing yourself, you would only attract the reflection of that externally. Now let's move on to the second way that we can nurture love in our relationships: creating shared moments. Cultivate shared moments of joy and connection, whether through shared activities, laughter, or meaningful conversations. These moments strengthen your bond between individuals. Now we all have shared moments of activities and laughter and meaningful conversations with others, and we realize how much stronger certain bonds have gotten because of this, when they're genuine and true, of course. And it always surpasses and beats any moment of any form of shallowness of, going shopping or buying stuff, right? I always say that thoughtful and meaningful gifts mean more to me than the things I've been given. In fact, I can't even remember half the stuff that I've been given, but the things that have been given to me from a meaningful place, where it was thought out, where it was expressed in a certain way, it always remains in my memory forever, right? It's something that I always reflect back on. Well, that was a nice thing, or a nice gesture. That was nice of them to do, because it makes you feel seen and heard and understood and listened to, right? So it's like they were listening. So I always say that when it's expressed from the heart, a genuine connection is always felt. And when it's always felt, it is always remembered. But when it's shallow and it's very temporary, it's almost like, oh, right, I forgot I knew that person, right? It's so different. So there's people that don't have that depth in them, which is understandable, right? Because in order for you to reach that pivotal vulnerability to be intimate in that way, you need to go that deep within yourself, because you need to find that within yourself to express it from that core of yourself. So it is not to say that anyone's better or worse or doesn't know. Is not everyone is tapped into that potential within themselves. Therefore, we can't expect from others what they have not yet done for themselves, which is, I think, is a fair way to look at it before we decide to judge others for what we perceive their lack of attention or intention. Stepping into the third one, which is community connection. Recognize the importance of community connection. Engage with your community, whether online or offline, fostering a sense of belonging and shared values that contribute to a richer tapestry of relationships. So I believe that when you kind of know who you are, and or at least you're learning and you're pursuing the knowing of yourself and the healing of yourself, and you want to reach your full potential, and you want to introduce yourself to new ways of learning and doing things, community is very important, which is why I started the community within this program and the app, because I feel like, we could always go to social media and find certain groups, right? But we could only speak about certain topics here and there, and then there's no coming back, there's no reinforcement, there's no notification, right? But when we have a community like the one I'm attempting to build here, we're all doing the same thing, we're all pursuing the same thing, we're all pursuing to better ourselves, we're all pursuing to heal ourselves, we're all pursuing to self-master ourselves, so that we can be the representation that inspires and motivates others around us to do the same, just by simply being, where we don't have to even say anything, because the actions and the motivations and the behaviors and the change within us, that transformation will in itself create a ripple effect around us. And we can make an impact by simply being who we are, without reinforcing or forcing any information or anything upon anyone. Because when it is true and a genuine connection, and when you are doing the work to truly transform, it is inevitable that that transformation will catch the eyes of those that are also ready to go along in the process with you, which I believe is a beautiful thing, because that's how kind of I started. Like, I started surrounding myself with people that were more like-minded, and were into eating healthy and working out and doing yoga. And that's what started my journey. Had I not had that community of interacting with people that were introducing me to new things that I was not yet aware of, that was showing me the benefits of those things, that was reflecting an energy that I thought was contagious and magnetic and I thought was so beautiful. It was an instant moment of inspiration that allowed me to be influenced by that, therefore pursuing more of that. But first I had to step out of my comfort, out of my bubble, of my norm, and allow myself that change, allow myself that transformation, allow myself to unlearn to then relearn, allow myself to let go of what no longer served me so that I can reintroduce and make room for the new things that are going to allow me to step fully into my full potential with like-minded people that are going to now be there to guide and support me and motivate me and be just a listening ear for me in those moments that seem more challenging, which is the beauty of community. Now, how can we use this as an integration into daily life? The first one we have is love-infused decision-making. Infuse love into your decision-making process. Consider how choices align with love and compassion, both for yourself and the impact they may have on your relationships. So it's also reframing from being selfish, right? When you're living in love, because you have to think, okay, this is what I want, but how is this decision going to affect my responsibilities? How is this decision going to affect my relationship? How is this decision going to impact those that I'm responsible for example, if you have kids, if you have a spouse. So all of this has to have in consideration the expression of love is also the expression of making the right choices based on the influence of love, and not neglecting your needs, of course, but where's the compromising middle ground where you can neutralize that decision into something that not only works for you but works for others, because we're trying to bring ourselves into the middle ground and not working on selfishness and ego-based intention. And sometimes when we are healing, there's a lot of things that will fall away, that will change, because our energies are going to change based on the healing that we've made, based on the standards that we are now maintaining and the boundaries that we are requiring. So when things like that start occurring, you start to realize what works best for me and what is best aligned with me. And these moments of these transformations, when things start changing and people that don't really serve your highest good start falling away, we have to be okay with that and letting go with love as well. Because just because things change and people fall apart and no longer have anything in common and grow apart doesn't mean that anyone's right or wrong, or it doesn't have to be a conflict. It doesn't always have to be a drama. It could just be a subtle, effortless change that just happens, and we have to learn to accept that and let it go with love, having compassion, of course, and to communicate our true feelings if it's something that needs to be discussed. But it is something that comes with the process of transformation and healing and self-mastery. Just have that in mind. But when we make love-infused decisions, it is first prioritizing our intention and our pursuit of our dreams and goals, and learning that that is the priority, while making those changes, making sure that we compromise with the changes that may or may not affect those around us, right? And for number 2, we have gratitude practice. Develop a gratitude practice within your relationships. Express appreciation regularly, acknowledging the positive qualities and contributions of those around you. And I always think this is very important. Sometimes we have to think, what would I love and appreciate for someone to do for me, right? Because it's so easy for us to be like, oh, I wish you would do this and I wish you would do that for me. But you have to stop and ask, am I doing that for them? Am I showing appreciation? Am I giving a compliment? Am I making sure that they know that they are being heard? That I am paying attention to their needs? That I am making sure to keep an environment that allows them to feel loved, that feels safe, right? Whether it's your spouse, whether it's your family, whether it's your kids, whether it's your colleagues, it doesn't even matter. Anyone. If you want that from others, make sure you first are starting that behavior yourself. Because remember, you are being the change you want to see in the world. You're doing the work to become that change, as it starts with you. So instead of expecting others to do it for you, just do it yourself for others. And I promise you, you will always reap that which you sow. It would always come back to you. Even if it doesn't come from the same person, it will come to you. I promise that. Because that is the intention that you're putting out. So you're not doing it to receive it. You're doing it because you have to give it with the same energy you want to receive it. Meaning, I want to feel appreciated for this. So now what I have to do, okay, let me appreciate this that I witnessed right now. And just do it. Don't do it to receive it. Just do it because you feel it. You truly feel that you do appreciate, because you are in the energy and the practice of gratitude. And when you are in the energy and the mindset and the practice of gratitude, it becomes easy to point out what is it that you are grateful for. It could be the most smallest thing. I appreciate the fact that you did that without having me have to ask you to do it. It makes me feel appreciated. You can say something like that to your kids. Let's say they take out the garbage before you ask them to take out the garbage. Just point it out and say, wow, you took out the garbage before I even asked you. I appreciate that. That makes me feel very appreciated. Thank you for doing that for me, And that you can tell yourself, I'm grateful that I have a child that pays attention to my needs and is responsible to do what they're being asked before they're being asked to do it. That's something to be grateful for, because it makes my life easier. So I am grateful for it. So when we are in the energy of looking for things to be grateful for, and not the things that we hate, or the things that we want to criticize, or the things that we want to correct, or the things that we want to control, we step more into the energy of love, because we are cultivating and nurturing the energy of love by doing practices like gratitude and having love-infused decision-making in our daily life. Which brings us into fostering a culture of love. So to foster a culture of love, we first want to love as a healing force, right? Recognize love as a healing force. Understand its power to mend wounds, foster forgiveness, and create a harmonious environment where relationships can thrive. So that example I just gave about showing appreciation, instead of going and criticizing, which is something that parents do, right? Because we're trying to mold our children to be responsible, for example. You're trying to mold them and teach them the values of life, to teach them how to be responsible. So to some degree, as a parent, you do have to bring in the correction of the things that they do right and wrong. So not only are you correcting them and teaching them, but you have to balance that with appreciation and the ability to notice when they are doing something right and highlighting it for them, so that besides the corrections and criticizing of whatever they do right or wrong, you are also embracing and bringing the energy of love, so that you can neutralize those moments when you have criticized, right, with the energy of love, so that it doesn't become a memory in your child's mind, for example, of I'm always getting criticized by my mom or my dad. I never do anything right, because this is what happens in our upbringing. You even see adults still processing this in their minds from childhood, because they didn't have the energy of love that healed the contrasts of the things that were happening. So if your criticism and one day was maybe a bit harsh because you're upset or you were disappointed at the performance of the cleaning that they did, for example. You have to remember that and take note of that, but also to counteract that, to neutralize and polarize that energy that was already seated in the experience of your child. You have to now incorporate the energy of love to heal that could something that could be a wound, right? And that's being mindful of the intention of maintaining love in the household so that it's not a traumatic experience for your child. That is caring and loving enough for yourself, but also those around you, as you're making decisions based on love, right? So, okay, I know I did this a little harsh. Let me apologize. That's also a way that you can neutralize the energy, which is something that I make sure I get used to doing. I become aware if I might have said something harshly or a little more intense than I should have at the moment. I'll give myself a moment to reflect on that and process. Maybe I should have said that a little more kindly, because we're all humans. We all have our moments. We all get triggered sometimes, right? Didn't I tell you to, sometimes it just comes out. But if we take a moment to reflect and sit back and allow us to process, we can always go back and say, I want to apologize for the way I spoke to you earlier. I know my tone was a little aggressive, so I do want to apologize for that. But I want you to understand where I'm coming from. Is this something that you understand where I'm coming from? Because sometimes bringing the soothness, the nurturing of the energy of love, right, allows both parties to have resolution, because there's an instant neutralization that allows both compromising to happen. There's a compromisation that's occurring when the energy is neutralized. And when you're spiritually mature and have an open heart and are okay with expressing love and apologizing, you are taking the initiative and the accountability of your actions and your behaviors and are prioritizing love over your ego, where the ego might say, I'm not apologizing. I didn't do anything wrong. Why would I apologize for something I didn't do wrong? I said what I had to say, right? Isn't that how the ego talks? Because it lacks the awareness of love to neutralize it. It prioritizes how it looks or what it said it was going to do over the connection, over nurturing the bond, over nurturing and maintaining a healthy relationship. That's what the ego does. But when you introduce love into the equation, that goes out the window, because the pride fades away, because that's all pride as well. This is why people that are living through the ego can't surpass the energy of pride. Therefore, it becomes impossible for them to step into the energy of true love. Therefore, they not only can they not give it properly, they don't even know how to receive it, because they don't even think it's possible to exist in that energetic frequency of love. They think it's a lie, because they themselves are living a lie, because they themselves are living in the energy that has the void of love that they seek externally through things, not understanding that what they are seeking is beyond the veil, beyond that void that they are neglecting, right? Because there's too much pride and ego to do so. So that's something I wanted to go ahead and point out. It's always okay to apologize and take accountability, because it shows that you value the connection and the relationship more than you value your pride and your selfish needs for whatever validation that gives you. Moving on to the second way that we can foster a culture of love is cultivating emotional resilience. Cultivate emotional resilience through love. Acknowledge that love acts as a buffer against challenges, fostering the strength needed to navigate the ups and downs of relationships, which is the example I gave. Because even though, let's say you have a disagreement with someone, Your priority is not to be in disagreement. Your priority is not to be right. Your priority is not to prove that you're right. Right? Your priority is to find a middle ground, to find an understanding as to where both parties can find resolution in this situation, in this disagreement, in this moment of lack of love, for example. And together, if you're in a spouse or your children or your colleagues, right, when we are in the energy of love, navigating life always becomes easier. Why? Because you are navigating from not only your physical aspect, but also your spiritual aspect. Therefore, you have more to work with, as opposed to just limiting yourself to one aspect of yourself. Bringing us into the conclusion. As we conclude part 1 of Nurturing Love, reflect on the seeds of love you've planted within and around you. This journey is a continual process of growth, and each step taken enhances the tapestry of your relationships. May the transformative power of love guide you toward deeper connections and a more fulfilling life.